There's so much new legislation out there. It's getting harder, right? Doesn't it seem harder to you?
Yeah, you would think after a while it's going to get easier and we're just going to get into it. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Property Pros Podcast. I'm Mark Goldwich with Gold Star Adjusters, and we're going to mix it up today. Today I'm going to interview co-host here, Peter LaFramboise. Peter, I was checking out earlier. You started the end of 2012, beginning of 2013. That's over 10 years now. What's the ride been like for you?
I would say it's good. I really like working for you. For 10 years, I've really enjoyed it, and I think we have a good mesh, with our personalities. And it's worked out well. And I can tell you with certainty that every year, with experience and more claims, we just keep growing and growing and growing. And so I thought that our jobs would get easier, but it turns out that there's so much new legislation out there. It's getting harder, right? Doesn't it seem harder to you?
Yeah, you would think after a while it's going to get easier and we're just going to get into the flow of things. It never seems to happen.
No, every time. So they change a law or the words in the policy change. So when we figure out how to help the people that we work for recover what they need, they just change some words in that policy. It's a contract, really is what it is. It's just a contract. They change words in it. And what that does to you guys is it just takes money out of your pocket. That's really what it does. And that's been hard. It's hard to see that change, and it's changed dramatically, I think, since Hurricane Matthew in 2016. We really started ramping up a lot of policy changes, and then legislation changes here starting in 2018 or 19 maybe. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah, and I didn't even notice it before then because I started after Hurricane Ivan in 2004. There weren't caps on fees for public adjusters. When I started, I thought, well, I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be making all this money. And I get into the business, and all of a sudden now they're capping fees. They're raising deductibles. They're putting limits on screen enclosures and fences and all of these things. They're just capping, and the payments are getting smaller, and our fee is going down, and our fee is restricted. And so here I am 19 years later, still waiting to get rich.
Yeah, I know it's not often, but I mean, with some of these claims, what we're noticing is that the people that work on the other side of the street, the people that work for the carriers, the training on their behalf is less and less so. I feel like when I talk to them on the phone, that I have to teach them, hey, when I request this is how you ask your manager to get them to write the check that my client needs. They're suffering. Their home flooded, or they had a fire, or they stayed in it during a hurricane, and they're fixing it, but they're short tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, or even 10 grand. 10 grand is still a lot of money to regular. Yeah. And I feel like I'm constantly training the people that work for the insurance companies how to explain to their manager to get them to finally agree to cut these checks for people,
Yeah. Now I will say, for folks that don't know Peter as well as I do, Peter is a different egg, like we all are. But one thing about you has always been, and I always tell people when I'm talking about you, results may vary. It's not typical, right? You are at another level than most public adjusters, and I figured out the secret to your madness.
Oh, tell me what the secret is. Yeah. I don't know the secret.
The secret is you have this thing where every day you wake up believing the gravy train ends tomorrow. You believe you're going to literally run out of money tomorrow, and you fight like hell to make as much money as you can today. You work that much harder because you really believe every day it's going to end tomorrow. It never does, or it hasn't yet, but what do you think?
I think there's some truth in that I've had some experiences in my career before I became a public adjuster where I had companies that almost went bankrupt, or my car was going to get repoed, or in one case, we almost let my house go to foreclosure because we really struggled financially as a single person, and then when my wife and I got together. So that's driven me a lot, like this. It's sad. It's a pessimistic thought that you feel like there's a limit and that you're going to run out. And so I used to say to Mark when I first started, hey, we can't keep working on these roof claims. And he would say, no, you know. And it's amazing. There's always these storms that are causing damage. And then what's worse is, and people never believe us when we tell them, don't worry, they will figure out a way to mismanage the claim and you'll probably need to call us for help. And it does happen at a very high percentage of the time. In fact, I was talking to somebody I'm working for Hurricane Ian, and their company went insolvent. Now they're FIGA. This is really difficult to work with FIGA. You know that is, right? Okay. So he says, Peter, you don't know. He's a construction guy. And he's like, I know how to build things, but I also know this isn't my wheelhouse to manage a claim. He says, that's why I hired you to do it. But he's like, I have so many customers that are fighting every day to get what they're owed. And I said, well, what are they doing? Didn't they already hire public adjusters or attorneys right now to work for them? He says, no, they still doing it on their own. They won't give up and they won't hire help. And what I say to that, or I say to people, I'm like, there's so many industries where we hire help, right? We're not cutting our own hair. There's value to hire somebody to cut our hair, right? Okay.
Our own teeth.
You got it. How about the taxes, right? We pay people to do our taxes because if we pay somebody to do the taxes, we do better as a result of it. How about listing a house for sale? It seems so easy, right? We can go on Zillow and we see what one's sold for. Chances are we should really know what that house is worth, but it's ingrained in us that we need help. But on a property claim, it's ingrained in us that there's a good neighbor, or we're here for you, or whatever combination marketing term that's out there. And people don't come to question, it's a for-profit company. Don't forget, it's for-profit. So how do they make the profit? Obviously, they take your premium and they limit their amount that comes back out to you. And you've written some books about this, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So the first one, what? Delay, deny, defend.
Mine is delay, deny, deflect.
Okay.
I actually, when I got into business, I wasn't litigating. I didn't have to. We could settle our claims. This was 2004. They would actually settle claims with us. And I didn't have to hire an attorney that much. Almost not at all. At the time I wrote the book, I was only into it for a year. We literally had one case with an attorney. I wasn't thinking defend yet. But it is now.
It is. It's very much now. And it's sad that it is now. And it makes me wonder how I have friends that work for the insurance companies. They're great people that we would love to have dinner with, we'd have beers with, and they got a job to do. And they work for a for-profit company. Their job is to make money. So, when somebody hires us, they know they pay us a percentage. It's very clear what you're paying us. What's unclear is how much money does your insurance company make? How do they actually make the money? And how are they handling your claim in such a way that it can reduce what you're actually supposed to get, right? Mm-hmm. We watch news networks at night, and some event happens during the day, and there's a completely different spin on one channel compared,
right?
But it's the same thing.
Right.
It's literally the same thing. So how do you know which one's actually right? Well, I can tell you which one's right. Which one benefits you the most, honestly, right? That's your right, and their right is a different right. So that's why we just say it's good for you to have help and people who've been there and done that and have a track record of successfully getting folks what they need.
Yeah. All right. So shortly after you started, and you tell me the story all the time, you didn't think you were going to make it your first year, and something happened, and it was a fire lead, and it was able to carry you over and to keep you going. But at what point did the switch really flip for you and go, I got a handle on this, I can make this a career?
That's good. I don't know. Maybe. Definitely after 1 year, close to the second year into it, it was, at that time, public adjusters were even less known than what they are now. Everybody that's a contractor kind of knows what public adjusters are. And the public knows what it is when there's a natural disaster. So at that time, I think people didn't really understand that it doesn't matter if the insurance company says that they think their opinion, this is worth 5,000 or 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000, that you can question that opinion. And that's what we do. So second year, and then going into the third year, I started to get into a rhythm and get a lot better at my habits, the organization, being efficient. And then Hurricane Matthew happened, and so we get flooded with claims in here to try to keep up with them. And you really figure out how to be efficient so that you can give people the maximum help they need, but help as many people at the same time as you possibly can.
Right, and you touched on what was going to be my next question, the other thing I noticed about you, and that was your habits. You mentioned habits. Most people don't even talk about their habits that much, but you do, and you notice it, and you're intentional about it. I noticed that you're much more organized than most people, and so you look at things a different way. When you see a claim, you immediately start to go through the progress in your own system, where other people just go, I should contact the adjuster, I should,
That's the thing, right? If you tell me a claim like, hey, it's this claim, it's this insurance company, and these are the damages, I'm already thinking 4 and 5 steps ahead. I'm already thinking about, what will you do if we disagree? If we all agree, it's great. That's super easy. We want that to happen. But if we disagree, what do we do? So a lot of times, before I even sign somebody up under my contract, I already know what I'm going to do in the event of a variety of variables that the insurance company does, because I'm reading their policy, and in a lot of cases, but not all, either I've talked to them on the phone, or I've visited the house or the building or the church facility or the industrial facility. And so I already know, okay, these are the things we're going to run into, and these are the things I could see them having an issue with, because if they agree to this, that number gets really big for the insurance company, and so they're going to want to fight it. So what do I do in that case? So I'm thinking several steps ahead on every single claim. And so for a long time, for years, I could tell, even all the new people that would come in here, or even other PAs, they would say, this is the claim, this is what it is, what should I do? And I'd say, this is how they're going to respond to you, this is what they're going to do, and this is exactly what you should do after each step. Well, with the law changes, we're going to see how they start to respond to this stuff, but I feel like we have a good handle on it for the people that I'm going to work for. And I think about, what do we do when we disagree? Because if we agree, it's easy. It's when we disagree that we're really worth the value that people pay us for.
Which is most of the time.
A high percentage of the time. You'd be surprised. Even on really big claims like Cat 4 and 5 hurricane, and people, it's hard for them to believe that the insurance company will be off $200,000. They're like, there's no way. Yes, you'd be stunned. It happens all the time. A fire. Remember, we had a fire recently, and this one came from Mark. It was somebody you knew, and you said, here, go work on this with your coworker Dan. So, okay, we're working on it. And I said, what are we doing here? This is so obvious. They owe all this money. This family doesn't need us. And you said, no, you'll be surprised. And I was really shocked. A fire that went through the roofing system, burned up structural members. Typically, when that happens, the claim gets very big. It means that they're going to be out of the house for a very, very long time. And it's so poorly mismanaged. I would say that the payment the insurance company made is on par with about 30% of what they actually will ultimately pay. It could be 30, 35% of what the claim will actually settle out for. That's what they paid initially, and that's what they thought was fair, which is crazy.
Yeah, and I remember that because they almost, even though I had known her for a long time, and a very good friend of hers, I'd known her for a long time, but just through business. A very good friend of hers said, no, you have to hire Mark. Hire Gold Star. I'm telling you, trust me. And she trusted her because she was thinking, well, it's a total loss. They're just going to give me my policy limits.
Yeah.
I said, they are. But not before we make them give you your policy limits. They're not going to just hand you your policy limits, even though everybody can look at it and know it's a total loss.
And that claim is so interesting because people that are listening, that are questioning, they still, when they hire us, they go, how much am I going to pay these guys? That's what they think. How much am I going to pay these guys? They're so consumed by what they pay us. And we try to tell them, look at how much you're leaving on the table if you don't hire us. This is how much you're leaving on the table. And so that claim's pretty easy, right? But in the beginning, we must have had 5 people, not named the wife, trying to fire us when we first got started. We had the claims examiner who worked for the insurance company, the field adjuster who worked for the insurance company, a contractor who does mitigation work, a general contractor, all of which said, you don't need these guys. Well, when we collect an extra $300,000 on that claim, I will have said they more than got their money's worth for our services. So sad to say that one went through, but that happens. The husband and the wife couldn't agree. They stuck with us, and boy, are they thankful that they have us, because on that particular one, it's such a large loss. I actually keep a spreadsheet where the family at any time can tune in, look at the spreadsheet, and see where they stand financially in that claim. How much more money can they get out of the limits? Where are we going to ask for the next tranche of money, etc.? So when people have very obvious, very large claims, they say, oh, this insurance company, they got my back. The amount that they pay is still in disagreement.
Right.
So
yeah, it is. It amazes me to this day. It amazed me when I first got into the business. I always knew I could make a difference. Never realized the amount of difference that could be made, and it still amazes me today. So in the last minute or so, give us your final thoughts on just the adjusting process, the future of public adjusting, whatever you want.
So I think people should get to know what a public adjuster is and try to find somebody in their community that they can trust is good. So even if you don't need it for your own house, maybe you know somebody who's good at what they do, and you can refer them out to your friends. If you live in Kansas and you go through tornadoes and hails and fires, right? They do have fires and pipe leaks. You need to know somebody. Here in Florida, we have hail, we have fire claims, we have hurricanes. I mean, to me, it's super obvious they need one of us, but we don't have the sort of purchasing power that attorneys have to advertise every night on the news. And people say those guys are ambulance chasers. Well, they're lifesavers if you had an accident and you're hurt to the point where you have pain forever. Do you remember the person that worked with us that has...
Oh, yeah.
She has permanent pain for her issue. She needed the attorneys to work for her. So if you have a very large event on your home or even a smaller event, it doesn't hurt to call and ask us for questions or other people to find out if what you're being told by the insurance company is true, or just like you would for your taxes or selling your house, you hire somebody who represents only your interest. That's the key. They have to have your interest and not be conflicted because they make all their money from the insurance company.
Exactly. Imagine being dragged into court and using the other guy's attorney.
No way. Of course, right.
That's what they're at. That's what they're suggesting.
It's exactly what they're doing. So look, I hope that people get out of this that ask questions, right? Ask for help immediately. If you were thinking about suing somebody, you don't sue them and then go get an attorney. You call attorneys and ask them advice on whether or not that lawsuit is valid. It's the same thing for claims. Call us and ask us if the claim is valid. Should you even file it? Now more than ever, because of in Florida that policies are getting dropped like crazy. Should you even be filing claims? We're having a lot of that lately. Mm-hmm. Vetting the claims and then telling them, no, you shouldn't file it, or yes, you should, and here's why, and here's what will happen throughout the course of the claim. So that's the message I think I want to leave with the people, for sure.
Well, great. Appreciate that. Thanks, Peter. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Property Pros podcast. Look for us on other episodes. Check out the YouTube channel or on Facebook at Property Pros Podcast. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks.